What about if I tell you that everyone can do a time travel? Welcome, everyone. This is the AI Campa Show. Today we're going to bring one of the topics that is more since, I don't know, probably since 2018, a little bit more far, just very recently. One topic which is using in every single aspect of the sci-fi, in technology and all, and it's no more than time travel. Okay, so time travel, what amazing. I mean, when I talk about time travel, probably the first thing that will come to my mind will be Back to the Future. One of the most iconic and wonderful trilogy in the history. Not only trilogy, let's talk because there is more after the movies, but probably one of the most successful how can I say this? And I just forget the name. Franchise in the history of the cinema. Why? Because you see, for the human mind, I think for us is more fascinating everything that is not discovered. And everything that we discover or we have knowledge about that, but we cannot see it every day. So we found it fantastic. So Back to the Future show us the possibility to go back in time and then go further in time, forward. Let's go forward. So let's back and forward. And was like confusing. So just because in the title Back and Future is two different opposite words, because you go back in time or you go future in time. So beginning with that, it's not that just appears the movie and that's it, and all these sci-fi books and all, because there is some theories. And thanks to these theories made by great scientists, we get what we have right now. I mean, time travel have the limitation. I think it's because I am not a science person, so science in this kind of topic. I love the topic because I love to see it and I read about it. But I think time travel is we are limited by our own technology. We can do some maths, but it still is in theory. We never get practical, or as far as we know. I think, and this is why I say it's fascinating for all of us, is because the idea. I don't think the idea to go in the future is too much logical or too much because how can I say this? It's just like we prefer to go back in time to try to resolve some mistake we do in the past, some regrets that we have. But this is in the mind without have a full knowledge about how it works. And we're going to talk about that. It's more like so I did something and probably we're going back in time, like save someone, like change something in your past to affect your future. So there is coming the theories. In recently, I think moving like Marvels, okay, like for example, we saw also in DC with Flash, the last movie of Flash, and we see also in Avengers Endgame, we see this thing of going in the past to try. Okay, how works the mind? We go into the past to not affect the future or our current future, our current present. Thinking that we fix something in the past, the present will be fixed. And this is kind of the main topic today. That can be happen because if we're going to talk about technology, if we can engage the technology about the time travel, it will be extended. And I can say I am not an expert about that. And as far as I know, we cannot do time travel, but we can play with the idea. We can play with the idea, and this playing with idea is what this brings us and capture our attention when we go and see a movie, when we're going to read a book, because also in the books they are. For example, Harry Potter have it. The Prisoner of Azkaban, if I'm not mistaken, yes, the Prisoner of Azkaban was using the time travel with Hermione so she can take more classes. So we see in series, Firefly is one of the series. You see, it is this kind of things, and we engage. I mean, I think one of the most high ratings is when they're talking about this topic. It doesn't matter if the script is bad or whatever. Like the people we're going to see is because the thing on the time travel. And actually, look, it's not just because I love the idea, but every time they, for example, I see the TV or Netflix or any place, something about Back to the Future, come on, I'm going to get it. In the time they choose a car, which is the one model not conventional, the DeLorean. And then the capacitor, and we need to use uranium, and how we want to fix it. That was the first movie. And then going back, o sea, that was super, super, super cool. So now, thinking in the theories about what is what everyone is bringing about time, and late we're going to talk about something that is my opinion about our reality that is still a theory, but it's a reality. So I prepare I found 7 theories in the time travel or relative to time travel that I let's go to discuss a little bit. Okay. So for the first we go in the fixed timeline theory. Is you will always meant to be there. You see, we had the idea that everything is already writing, so it's not too much that you're going back because everything is writing for your past because you already live it. It's the theory that everything in the future is also writing according to everything is happening. So that means that all the destiny is already writing. So because every single action that you're going to have will always belong to the past. But for example, and I'm going to enter here how this is going to connect. Every theory I have the connection, what we're talking about. For example, in Harry Potter, the Prisoner of Azkaban, Hermione was having time travel. And actually, this is how, in the end, they resolve the movie. Because, like I say, everything in the future and everything in the past is going to be writing, so she can have having 5 classes, for example, at the same time, because she finished one, and then using the device, she can back in time to enter in the second class, and then back in time to go to the third class, and back in time to go to the fourth one, and then go to the actual time and nothing happened. So this is a cool idea how we can manage the time travel. So I mean, I can go do something and it's not going to affect my current timeline. This is one theory. So we have the grandfather paradox. And we saw it Back to the Future, and recently we saw it in the Umbrella Academy. You see, this paradox creates a logical loop. If you never exist, you can go back in the future. And happen like this, okay? So what happens if you go back in the future and what you do in back, no back to the future, no, back to back to your past, and whatever you're going to do is going to be affected your moment. But we're talking about your moment as a person. For example, and I'm going to use the example of the Umbrella Academy. You coming for one struggling and difficult home, and you create one hate about your father or about your grandpa or whatever, and they always beat your mother, but your love for your mother, what to do, what to do, what to do. You find time travel, and then you back to the past, and you kill that figure. But of course, if you kill that figure never have a relationship with the mother, and that relationship for the mother will never lead to your existence. And as I never leave your existence, so how you still, so it's a loop. How you are still alive. So it's a loop. Because the idea of the grandfather paradox is if you back in time to affect your existence, how you back in time? It don't have sense. But that was taken in this movie. For example, in Back to the Future, Marty was trying to use that, and he was banished because the mother and the father was never took that dance. So as they never took that dance, it vanished. Was vanished. I remember one picture until he do something to make him to have the kiss in the dance, and then everything was better. But at the same time, in that moment, he changed the present, because when he back in time to his current present, everything was changed. O sea, o sea, part of the movie. Okay? So when we play with that, that is telling us that it's very complex, but it's still a theory. It's still a theory. So we move about to section 3. We're going to the theory number 3. It's the multiverse theory, and this is enter movies like Marvel, Avengers Endgame. We have also the one for Flash, the Flashpoint, remember? And we have also, for example, the Rick and Morty, a wonderful series that they talking about multi-realities and back in time too also. So this theory is going back to time, but it doesn't change the present. Okay? Because we don't talking about currently, we don't talking about like practically going in time in your timeline. We're going to back in time in a different or alternative timeline. So when we do that, it's not going to affect anything on your present because it not belongs to you. It's still complex. You're going to live is the past in another timeline, because the theory says multiverse is when all the timelines looks like equal, not in all the aspects, but it says that you as a person, you can live in multiple timelines. Sharing the same history is not in always, but can repeat it. Okay? And if that's the thing. If you go, okay, this is to understand. That was the proof about the multiverse. But, for example, what happened in most of the time that we see this is thinking that if I go to back in time, I'm going to affect my future in my current time, and that never happened. For example, Endgame. And that was a question when was Hawkeye, Nebula, War Machine, and who was the other one? And Ant-Man. There was also talking about the movies. Is that when you go into your past, that is not your past, that is your current future, because your life is still moving. So the idea was to go back to the past and bring the stones to the present to change the present. That is good. That is correct. But as the ancient one was saying to Bruce Banner, when you remove something from the current timeline, you create multiverse. Okay? And that is kind of what happened with Endgame. And then we get movies like Loki that are explaining about the timeline, the branch of the time, and all that. That thing is true. But going a little forward, as far as I see it in Avengers, the event of Avengers didn't affect in the part the Thanos get the technology to back with them. But if that never happened, there was no affect the current timeline of the movie. So we have our fourth theory is the time loops. When we see the time loops, whether we see it in Palm Springs, Edge of Tomorrow Dark, and Grounding Hog Day. So you see, the time loop is when there was a movie, I don't remember, I think it was with Regina Hall and one of the Wine brothers. There was a loop that he always get married back in time, and always when you reach one point, the point going to reboot. It's like a reboot, but there is always a loop. It's always the same, happen the same. So this is why you say, if you are stuck in the loop, reliving the same moment a day and a day again, you can only escape by learning, changing, or making a new choice. And that is the problem. And I remember that movie, and I don't have the name right now. He was trying to get married, and always happened something, and back like 3 hours or 1 hour before. I don't remember the time precisely, but that was the thing. It's a loop. Everything happened at the same time. Block universe theory. Okay, so block universe theory is how can I say? Is when past, present, and future is all working in the same moment, in the same time. Okay? So that means that the time doesn't flow. And being said that, it's just the experience one moment at a time. But for more philosophical, this is more philosophical than cinematic, but it's still more powerful. It will everything merge in the same moment. Present, future, and past. How can I give one example? It's like three of you is in the same. Okay, I remember. I remember. It's like you have in one episode of Dexter, the laboratory Dexter, we're talking about in early 2000. There was one where he was having this 5 of them at the same place. Okay, that's a block theory, because it's when it's merged your present, your past, and your future at the same time. This is more complicated because, like we're talking about in the old theories, so the theories we're talking in any theory is you who travel to the past, your own existence. So if you travel to the past, to your own existence, you can see your old past. So your past you, and then your future you, if you're going forward. So that is what I try to explain when I say is all merged in one. Okay? And we go into the number 6, which is also important, is the wormholes. So the theory about Einstein and Rosen, this introduced this idea. Okay, of course it's not proven because, like I said, the technology we have in the current is not allowed, or we don't know public that doesn't allow. We didn't know about the thing of the clone, and suddenly one day we wake up with the news that the Arctic wolf was recreated. That our science is working in that, definitely. But this is the theory. Okay, so the theory of the wormholes is more sci-fi. So let's see, it's like a shortcuts through space-time in between theoretical bridges, okay, that connect one point to another. So the wormhole is one hole that we have a time, okay. So the hole, this is us. The hole, there is a time bridge, and you go in the past. So you can travel in the past because in your past or every single or in your timeline, in the same timeline, but in your past you can travel through a wormhole. So give you back in time. And I think this is one of the most iconic things because we're talking about Einstein released this so many years ago when the technology was more rudimentary. But now that we have the most technology, I don't know, we make more space travel than before. For example, Elon Musk, they have his Starlinks, his satellite, so he can launch, I don't know how many times per year he can launch a new satellite for the internet. But so we can have this technology now. There's more capacity to we can understand more the theories, and hopefully we can make it true. Hopefully, I don't know. Hopefully, so. And then we have this is, what about if I tell you that everyone can do a time travel and we don't need technology? We don't. Let's put a name. Memory time travel. But not a memory that you are wake up and just thinking in the idea or look, I remember when I was a kid. No. They never happened to you that you dream that you are a kid or a young adult, depends on your age. But you don't see it at the perspective that, hey, I see myself there. No, just do it by the perspective of being you, the eyes of yourself in the past, or the same thing but in the future. This is called emotional or psychological time travel. It's nice. It's nice. And I remember when I see Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, they were saying that the dreams is your representation in another universe, so in the multiverse. When I saw that, I remember this thing on the dream time travel. Let's put it like this: dream time travel, and was so good that thinking, what about if that is possible? This is something that we cannot prove, but what about if that is possible? What you are dreaming is exactly that happening in the moment, but in a different timeline. And that thing is nice, it's beautiful. And now for finish, this coming with my theory. I create one theory. Well, I don't create, I just thinking in something. how can I explain this? My way to see that we can do a time travel is with the mind. Not this way that we're just talking. It's just, for example, when there is so many hours of different, having in different geographical part, but your mind is working. So, if you are from point A to point B, there is 8 hours of difference. Okay? 12, 8 p.m. So that means you are 8 hours more old. Or your mind is 8 hours more old. Because for one reason we have this is called jet lag. The jet lag we suffer most when we back in time than when we're going in the future. So I'm talking about hours. When we go back in time, for example, when point B go to point A, he need to back 8 hours clock in time to go to the point A hour. The mind suffer consequence and of course reflect in the body, because it's not the same when you travel 8 p.m. 12 to 8 p.m. because you go forward to go 8 p.m. to 12. For example, if you go from Japan to United States, or Spain to Venezuela, I think the difference of 3-4 hours there is not too much affected. But when it's, for example, 10-12 hours of difference is affected. And you do a time travel. For example, if you do that travel 1st of January, sorry, you start the travel on the 31st of December, and you get, because there is some points that you cannot go to point A directly, so let's put a middle point. So when you go to point B to middle point, you go 31st to 1st of January. But when you go into middle point to point A, you back to 31st of January or December. And that, my friend, is a time travel. But time, not space. Because the idea of all this is about travel your body from time and space. But this, what we're just talking about, is just time, no space. Okay? This is time, no space. I mean, it's a fantastic topic. And like I say, I like to talk about this from the point of view of a non-science, too much science, because we're talking about formulas, we're talking about theories more deep, and seriously, it's something that I don't know how to manage. But I'm fascinated with all about the culture pop that we have about time travel. We can talk about that. It's a fascinating topic. Or maybe we're going to do another podcast. I hope I can find, I don't know, one scientist that can explain me about that. But in the meantime, time travel with your dreams and time travel with your plane, with the plane. See you next time. Thank you for watching the AI Campa Show. Comment, what do you think, or what is your perception about time travel? Your perception. Every single theory counts. Okay? See you next time. Bye-bye.